Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to a new video on East Coast Manga. So today we're going to be talking about the manga All You Need Is Kill. Now this is a one-shot, technically, in my opinion. It is 2 volumes, but they put it into this one book and there's nothing else after this. So if it's only one book, I consider it a one-shot, but technically it's not really. Now this is a super popular manga and I don't want to get into too many spoilers, so first half of this video, like my other one, is going to be my recommendation without spoilers, and the second half may have some spoilers. So a lot of people within the YouTube community do own this book. It's in a lot of people's collections, and that is for absolute good reason. I think this is an absolutely fantastic manga. I think it's a awesome concept. So basically the story is that there's a war going on between Earth, or humans, and these things that started showing up called mimics. Now these mimics are like absolutely vicious creatures. They're ball shaped with like super spiky legs, and they shoot, seems like lasers, I believe, out of their mouths, as well as having super sharp teeth and stuff like that. Now aliens that shoot lasers, sounds kind of weird, but it actually works really well in this manga, and it works so well that this was actually a light novel that was then adapted into a manga, and then basically adapted into a movie with Tom Cruise. If you've seen that movie, it's called Edge of Tomorrow. I can't remember if I've seen it. I'm actually going to check it out after I make this video, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But basically Earth needs to fight these creatures, and they have super tough skin, so like regular bullets and stuff for the most part don't go through them. And they basically have this team of elite soldiers who are trained to fight these things, and they're basically on a pathway to kill like all living animals and humans on Earth. And wherever they go, they also completely like destroy the terrain, and it's just they're terrible. That's the best way I can describe them. Now the artwork is done by Takeshi Obata, which is the same mangaka who does the artwork for Death Note. So as you can see right here, I'm not sure if you guys will be able to tell if you haven't read Death Note, but if you've read Death Note, this artwork seems pretty similar. I'm not going to go into too much artwork in the inside because I don't want to get in trouble with like copyright stuff. But the main premise outside of what I've already said is you focus on, I'm just going to call him Keiji. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce it, but I'm going to say Keiji. And he's this, and he's basically a part of this Japanese kind of special units team, or just similar to the army, but a little more jacked up. It's not the elite unit, but he basically gets sent in with the elite unit to defend a section of Japan where these mimics are now moving to. And if you guys have ever watched Groundhog Day, the story, aside from everything I've said, you basically focus on Keiji and how he has to go into this battle, which is basically a suicide mission. I mean, it's like no one has a great understanding about how these things work, and the most people who fight him end up dying anyways. So the first time he goes into this battle, he gets absolutely just destroyed, like completely murdered. But after he dies, he realizes he wakes up in his bed in the army barracks, and his day is essentially restarted. So every time he dies in battle, he gets restarted 30 hours before the battle, basically. Now, hopefully my background on the story wasn't too confusing, but it's a really, really interesting manga that, I mean, I'm also, I'm a sucker for time travel, but I'm also a sucker for kind of Groundhog Day mechanics, where you either die or you go to sleep and then you wake up to your previous day. I don't know, it's just, I think it's a really cool concept. And I don't want to get too much into the story because I don't want to give away any spoilers of what happens, but I think it's really well written. I think it's really well illustrated. I think the artwork is amazing. I mean, it's, like I said, it's the same artist who does Death Note, and that was also amazing artwork. And I mean, this manga was, like I said, it was adapted from a novel or light novel, and then a movie was made. So, I mean, this concept is just really, really good. And I think, personally, it could have actually even kept going. I think there could have been multiple more volumes made, but at the same time, there has to be something said about just a really awesome one-shot-ish type manga that just doesn't go too, that just doesn't run too long, and it really just packs everything in to, a couple chapters. I think it's amazing, and I think it deserves the awards it's won. And truthfully, I really do think people should add this to their collection. It's not like a mech manga or anything like that. The suits they wore actually I thought was kind of funny because it reminded me a lot of like Halo suits. But for anyone who hasn't checked this out, I highly recommend you check it out. Whether you buy it physically or digitally, I think you absolutely won't regret it. I think it's dark, but not like gruesomely dark in terms of the concepts. Like, there's a lot of death, but outside of death and fighting, there's not too many darker stuff than that. So I think a lot of people can enjoy it, whether you like seinen or you don't. And yeah, so that's gonna be my recommendation. Now, I am gonna add probably a couple more minutes just talking about a couple things I liked and disliked specifically. So if you don't want any spoilers, I don't recommend you go any farther into this video and just cut off here. Alright, so to go into a couple things I liked and disliked specifically. So I really like the other protagonist, I guess you can say. Rita, I think she was a really awesome character, and why I think this manga could have gone a little farther is I think she could have actually gotten more of a backstory. Like, she did have a decent amount of backstory, but I don't even think we found out her real name, which, I mean, is kind of cool in itself, but I don't know, I feel like I said, I think she could have gotten a little more backstory. I think Keiji or Kaiji could have definitely gotten at least a couple more volumes in terms of his own battles moving forward. I think there's just a lot that could have been added. Now, would the manga still been as good and as popular as it is right now in its shorter form? I'm not sure. I think there was possibility to be even more popular, but of course it's also a seinen type manga, so it's not a shonen where it's going to absolutely blow up in sales and be, you know, a manga for everyone. So I guess I kind of do understand why they cut it short, and you know, it did win a bunch of awards and stuff like that. I don't think it hurts the manga being short, but I think there was a lot of potential that hasn't been tapped in. But personally, I love the way that he went about the battles and just using each day to learn new tactics, because that's exactly like what I was thinking at the beginning that he should be doing. Now, one thing I did, what's kind of bothering me, is I feel like he should have talked to Rita a lot earlier. I feel like even just to be able to train with her and try to understand the way that she goes about things, because obviously she's one of the people who doesn't end up dying in every single battle. I think eventually he did, and that was kind of foreshadowed, but I think he should have done that way sooner. I think it just would have made sense from a logistics standpoint. Like, he just kept dying and kept training all these different ways, but it took him like 150 tries or something like that to eventually go and talk to her, and then it was like, what, 1 or 2 tries that he was able to do it in. I also think the battle scenes were great, but they were also, at least in my opinion, sometimes a little hard to distinguish what was going on. Now, I know there's so much going on that they had to pack into, you know, these smaller spaces. And maybe if I go back and reread it, it'll be a little more clear, but I noticed the battle scenes were just maybe a little too much going on, and maybe that's just me personally, I'm not sure. Overall though, I thought it was a great concept. I really liked the ending. I liked the fact that it came down to the point of, because I was curious, when he killed the server and he woke up again, I'm like, oh man, like why did that happen? It seemed like that shouldn't happen, and then Rita ended up understanding it, and I thought it was a really cool ending, him having to kill her. I think things were almost moving too nicely and too smoothly before that, when, you know, they were in their apartment and everything was just going really nice. I also think it was really interesting that the mimics were using these previous battles to also learn and also get better. That's just a really cool concept. I thought it was only him or her that were using it to get better, because I had actually foreshadowed a while, you know, not too far into it, that she's also at some point either going through this or had already gone through it. That's why she's so good, and nobody else is even close to as good as her until he gets to that point. Personally though, overall, I thought it was a fantastic manga. I thought some things were a little predictable while other things really weren't predictable, and I love that. I love not being able to know everything right away, or not being able to like guess correctly. But I would love to hear what you guys thought who have already read this. Leave it down in the comments, your opinion on it, especially if you didn't like it, because I'd like to kind of, I guess, get some different opinions on it. But that's going to be it for this video, so I will catch you guys later.